Hello everyone, this is Andrew from Crown Academy of English. Today's video is about describing locations in towns and cities. So this is a photograph of London. So, in this lesson you will learn words and expressions to describe locations in a town or city. And this is a map of Greater London. So here is a very common question in English. Where do you live? David replies, I live in London. So notice that we always use the preposition in before a town or city. Now, then Mark asks, whereabouts in London do you live? So here is a new word, very, very common in English. Whereabouts in London do you live? So what does this mean? Well, this means in what part of London do you live? So we want to know where exactly in London do you live? We want to be more specific. So we're asking someone to be more specific because London is a very, very big city. We don't know exactly where you live. Let's look at some other questions that we can ask with the word whereabouts. We can say, so whereabouts do you work? Whereabouts is the post office. So both of these questions, we're asking where exactly. Where exactly do you work? Where exactly is your office? Where exactly is the post office? Okay, so what area of the town? What part of the town? Okay, so whereabouts is a very common word. So let's look at some other possible answers to the question, whereabouts in London do you live? We can say, I live in the city centre. So this is London, the whole yellow part is London, but I live somewhere here, in the city centre. Okay, city centre. And if it is a town, we say, I live in the town centre, in the town centre. It's always in. Or simply we can say, I live in the centre. I live in the centre. Okay? This is British English spelling of the word centre. C-E-N-T-R-E. So R and then the E at the end. In American English, they spell it E-R. E-R at the end. So that's very important. And here is the opposite. Okay, so if we don't live in the city centre, then we can say, I live in the suburbs. In the suburbs. So the suburbs is at the edge of the city. It is far from the centre. It's not the centre, this is the centre. It's at the edge. Okay, so it's far away from the centre, in the suburbs. Or we can say, I live in the outskirts. Or I live on the outskirts. I live in the outskirts of London, or I live on the outskirts of London. And again, this means right at the edge, on the edge of the city, far from the centre. So both of these are very good expressions. Let's look at some more possible answers to the question, whereabouts in London do you live? So here we have a compass, and we have the points of the compass, the 4 points, north, east, south, and west. Okay. So we can say, for example, I live in the north of the city, or I live in the east of the city, in the south of the city, or in the west of the city. Okay? We can also say, I live in North London. Okay? And when we use this structure or this format, we actually put the word north as a capital letter. The first letter N is a capital letter because now it becomes part of the name of the city. It's almost like North London is a city inside a city. It's part of the city. So we give it a capital letter like it is for London. I live in East London, West London, or South London. Okay, so these are just two different ways of saying the same thing. And we also have midpoints. So we have points between the north and the east, and we call it the northeast. And when we write it, we write a hyphen. This is called a hyphen between the word north and east. So, for example, we can say, I live in the northeast of the city. Or I can say, I live in northeast London. And it would be a capital N and a capital E. Okay? So we have the southeast. Sorry, this is a mistake here. Sorry about this. This should be southwest, of course. Southwest. I did a copy, I think I did a copy and paste of this. So this should be southwest. Sorry about that. And this one is correct. This is northwest. Okay? So these are midpoints of the compass. So how do we say this? How do we answer this question? Whereabouts in London do you live? So I live here, and there is a distance of 2 miles from Tower Bridge. And let's answer the question using the points of the compass. So we can say, I live about 2 miles east of Tower Bridge. I live about 2 miles east of Tower Bridge. So we give the distance, then we give the compass point, east, and then we say of. So it's the distance east of another place, Tower Bridge. Okay? And the word about, it means approximately. Okay, so it's approximately 2 miles. We're not sure if it is exactly 2 miles, but it is about 2 miles. Okay, so I live about 2 miles east of Tower Bridge. Okay, and what about this one? Can you find the answer to this question using this format? Well, we can say, here we've used a different word, but if we want to use the word about, we can say, I live about 500 meters north of Covent Garden. Okay, so Covent Garden is here, and I live 500 meters north of Covent Garden. North. Okay, and again, approximately, this means the same as about. It is not, maybe it is not exactly 500 meters. It is approximately. Okay, so try to remember this structure. Distance, compass point of another point. Here's another common question. How far? So this means what is the distance? What is the distance? So how far is your office from here? So what is the distance to your office from here. So here is the answer. And here is how we say it. It's about 3 miles away. It's about 3 miles away. Okay, so don't forget the word away at the end. We could also say it's about 3 miles from here. That is fine. So it's about 3 miles away, or it's about 3 miles from here. Okay. Or we can also give the distance in terms of time. In fact, it's not really distance. We can measure it in terms of time. The amount of time it takes to walk there. So in this instance, we say it's about a 30-minute walk. We could also say it's about a 30-minute walk away. That is fine. So it's about a 30-minute walk away, or it's about a 30-minute walk from here. From here. So all of those are perfectly fine. Okay? But what about if we're not walking? What about if we're driving in a car and we want to measure the time? Well, we can say it's a 10-minute drive. It's about a 10-minute drive. Okay? And again, about, it means approximately, not exactly. It's about a 10-minute drive. And we can also say it's about a 10-minute drive away. That is fine. And we can also say it's about a 10-minute drive from here. Okay? So these are all very common ways of describing distance. And another way of answering this question, whereabouts in London do you live? We can say, I live close to Trafalgar Square. This is Trafalgar Square in London. So close to. Or, I live near Trafalgar Square. Notice here we have the preposition to after close, but after near there is nothing. We simply say, I live near somewhere. Trafalgar Square. I live near Trafalgar Square, or I live close to Trafalgar Square. We can even say, I live right next to Trafalgar Square. So here we are really emphasizing the fact that it is very, very close. Right next to. Directly next to. This means immediately next to. Very, very close. And again, this is the same meaning. We are using the word just to emphasize the fact that it is very, very close. It is immediately next to. I live just next to Trafalgar Square. Very close. And we can also use the word far with a negative. I live not far from Trafalgar Square. Okay? With this one, we can also say I am. I am not far from Trafalgar Square. Okay? And I am, in that context, it means I live. People will understand that you mean I live. Okay? Or maybe I live opposite Trafalgar Square. So Trafalgar Square is here, and I live opposite here. Okay? Here is the square, and opposite means on the other side, or in front of. Okay? And finally, I live down the road from Trafalgar Square. Down the road from Trafalgar Square. So we have Trafalgar Square here. Then we have a road. So if you live at the end of that road here, then that means that you live down the road from Trafalgar Square. Okay, so it's another way of saying not far from, close to, or near Trafalgar Square. Okay, so try to learn and remember the structure and the form of all of these sentences here. Very useful, very, very common. Whereabouts in London do you live? So here is where I live. Here's my home. This is point A. This is point B. So I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of 2 points. So we can use the word between. Between, it means somewhere in the middle, somewhere inside 2 points. So I live between point A and point B. Okay, so this is the general structure. Now let's give a real life example for someone who lives in London. So the home is here in the middle of the River Thames and Buckingham Palace. And if you look on a map of London, you will see that Buckingham Palace and the River Thames, they are quite close to each other. So there are a few roads that are in the middle. So here we can say I live between the River Thames and Buckingham Palace. Okay, I live between the River Thames and Buckingham Palace. In the middle. Between. Okay, so try to remember this word as well. It's a very, very useful way of explaining and describing your location. Okay, there we are. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Please write a comment below the video to tell me if you enjoyed it and if you learned something new. Here is our IELTS online course. So if you're preparing for the IELTS exam, then click here for information about our course. And here are some videos that I recommend.